Mm. My younger sister's graduation party was on a Saturday in June, and I found out about it the same way I find out about most things in my family, by accident. My aunt texted me a photo of the decorations, pink and gold streamers, a custom cake with my sister's name on it in cursive, a banner that read, "Congratulations, our star." She wrote, "So proud of our girl. Wish you could be here." I stared at my phone for a long time. I was in Portland. My family was in Sacramento. 4 hours away. I hadn't been invited. My name is Serena Wells. I was 31 years old, sitting on the floor of my apartment surrounded by moving boxes, holding a phone that had just shown me a party I wasn't supposed to know existed. My sister had graduated community college. She was 23. My parents had thrown her a party that looked like a wedding reception, and nobody had thought to call me. I didn't cry. I think I was too tired to cry. Instead, I set my phone face down on the carpet and went back to taping boxes because I had just accepted a new position and I was moving across the city in 3 days. Senior UX designer at a healthcare software company. The kind of job that came with stock options and a relocation package. The kind of job I had spent 7 years working toward, eating ramen in cheap apartments, taking freelance contracts at midnight, never asking anyone for a single dollar because I had always known, that asking was pointless. My family had one star. Her name was Kelsey, and I was just the older one who had somehow already figured things out, so they didn't need to worry about me. I set the tape gun down and picked my phone back up. I texted my mom. Aunt Sandra sent me a photo. Looks like a beautiful party. She didn't respond for 6 hours. When she did, all she wrote was, "It was last minute. You're so busy with work anyway." Last minute. There were custom banners. I put the phone in a box and kept packing. 3 weeks later, I drove my new car to Sacramento. It wasn't supposed to be a statement. I had been looking at the Range Rover for almost a year, the sport, deep blue, cream interior. After I got the signing bonus from the new job, I sat with the number in my account for 2 weeks. Then I went to the dealership, and I paid for it. $87,000, cash. It was the first large thing I had ever bought myself without second-guessing it for 6 months. It felt like something shifting in my chest, some old tightness finally letting go. I drove it down to Sacramento because I needed to pick up some furniture my grandmother had left me, pieces that had been sitting in my parents' garage for 2 years because I'd kept putting off the trip. This was just practical. I told myself that the whole drive down. I pulled into their street just after noon on a Sunday. My mom was on the porch. I watched her face when I turned into the driveway. The confusion, the slow scan of the car, the moment she realized it was me behind the wheel. She came down the front steps before I'd even opened the door. "Whose car is this?" she asked. "Mine," I said. The silence lasted about 4 seconds. Then, "Serena, that's an $80,000 car." "87," I said. "Hi, Mom." She didn't say hi back. She was still looking at the car like it had said something offensive. My stepdad came out of the house. He did the same scan, the logo, the plates, back to my face. "You financed that? Paid cash?" I said. He made a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a cough. "Where do you get that kind of money?" The question hung there in the Sunday quiet, and I thought about the 6 years I had filed my taxes alone, the 2 jobs I had worked simultaneously for 18 months after my first company dissolved, the freelance contracts I had taken at 10 p.m. on weeknights so I could build a portfolio good enough to get hired somewhere real. I thought about every time I had told my mom I couldn't come home for the holidays because I couldn't afford the flight, and she had said that's okay, we understand, and then I'd find out later they had sent Kelsey money for a flight to visit a friend in Miami. "Work," I said simply. "I'd got it from work." My stepdad went back inside. My mom stood there a moment longer, then said, "We should talk. Your father wants a family dinner tonight, if you're staying." She said "your father" like she always did when she meant my stepdad, the soft editorial choice that had always bothered me in a way I couldn't quite articulate. I had a father. He just wasn't involved. My stepdad had been in my life since I was 9, which was long enough that I didn't resent him exactly, but long enough to notice that his investment in me and his investment in Kelsey had never looked the same. Sure, I said. I'm staying tonight. I carried my overnight bag inside and went to find the furniture in the garage. That was when I found the box. It was pushed behind my grandmother's armoire, shoved against the wall under a collapsed card table. A standard banker's box, the kind you use for files. My name was written on the side in my mother's handwriting. Serena, Documents/College. I don't know why I opened it. Some reflex from years of being the kind of person who handles her own paperwork, because no one else will. I lifted the lid and found a folder of old financial documents, my grandmother's estate stuff, things that had been split between me and Kelsey when she passed 4 years ago. I started flipping through them the way you flip through things in a garage, half attention, looking for something specific and finding something else instead. Then I found a letter from the bank, dated 3 years ago, referencing an account I had forgotten existed. A small savings account my grandmother had set up for me when I was in college, designated for education and professional development. I had known about it vaguely. I had assumed it was empty, assumed it had been closed, assumed something. I had never checked. The letter was a closure notice. Remaining balance at time of closure, $14,200, authorized by my mother. And one line below that, partially cut off where the paper had been folded, funds transferred per family decision to. The paper was torn, just the edge, like it had been caught in something. The destination of the transfer was gone. I sat on the garage floor for a while. Then I took the letter inside, folded it into my laptop bag, and went to help my mom set the table for dinner. Dinner was my stepdad's pasta, which he made every Sunday and considered a personal achievement. Kelsey was there, home from whatever she was doing. She'd been talking about starting an Etsy store, or maybe a YouTube channel, or maybe going back to school for something creative. The specifics shifted depending on the month. She hugged me when she came in and said the car was insane, which was the closest to a compliment she usually gave me about anything. My mom made a salad. My stepdad poured wine. It was almost normal. Halfway through dinner, my stepdad said, "So you're serious about this car? That's not a lease?" "It's mine," I said again. "That's a lot of money to spend on a vehicle, Serena." "You bought a boat 2 years ago," I said. Kelsey snorted. My mom gave her a look. "That's different," my stepdad said. "How?" He set his fork down. "We've been worried about you financially. You never ask for help. You never tell us what's going on with your money. And then you show up in an $87,000 car and expect us not to have questions." I looked at him for a moment. The thing about my stepdad is that he means well in the way people mean well when they've never had to examine whether their meaning well is actually good. He thought of himself as a responsible man, a provider. He had a detailed opinion about everyone else's finances and a blind spot the size of a garage for his own daughter's dependency. "I don't ask for help," I said carefully, because I learned a long time ago that help wasn't equally available in this house. My mom looked up. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said, "that I found something in the garage today." I hadn't planned to do it at dinner. I had thought maybe after, or maybe I'd call when I got back to Portland and do it over the phone like a rational adult. But they had started it with the questions about my money, and something in me decided that if we were doing this, we were doing it all the way. I got up, got the letter from my bag, and put it on the table between the pasta and the salad bowl. My mom recognized it before she'd finished reading the first line. I watched her face. "Where did you get this?" she asked. "The garage. In the box with my name on it. The one with my grandmother's paperwork." "That account was old," she said. "It was complicated." $14,000, I said. "Closed 3 years ago, authorized by you." "Transferred where?" My stepdad hadn't spoken. He was looking at the letter with an expression I couldn't read. "Your sister was in a difficult place," my mom said. She needed support. We were trying to keep her stable. The account was small and it had just been sitting there, and you were all ready. She stopped. Already what? I said. She pressed her lips together. You were already doing so well. You had your job. You were independent. Kelsey was struggling and we made a judgment call, and I know it wasn't, you were already doing so well. I said it back to her slowly, not to be theatrical, but because I needed to hear it out loud to make sure I understood it correctly. That was the whole sentence. That was the entire logic. I was doing well, so the money that had my name on it was available for redistribution. My stability was not evidence that I didn't need help. It was a permission slip for them to stop considering me. Kelsey had gone very still. She was looking at her plate. Did you know? I asked her. She didn't answer right away. Then, Mom said she was borrowing from an account. I didn't know it was yours specifically. Kelsey needed a deposit for her apartment, my mom said, and her course fees, and there were some other things. It added up to $14,000. Serena, I applied for a professional certification 2 years before that letter is dated. I said, $800. I asked you if the education account had anything in it. You said you'd look into it and never mentioned it again. And then a year later, you used it for Kelsey's apartment deposit. Silence. My stepdad finally said, we were going to tell you. When? He didn't answer. She's your daughter too, my mom said quietly, and I think she meant it as an explanation, but it landed as an accusation, like my presence in this family required justification. I know, I said. That's why I'm sitting here instead of walking out. Nobody touched their food for a while. Then my stepdad said, you want us to pay you back. Is that what this is? I want you to acknowledge that you took money that had my name on it without telling me, I said, and I want to understand why you thought that was acceptable. We made a mistake, my mom said. She sounded tired. We should have talked to you. But we were under pressure and Kelsey needed, I repeated. Kelsey always needs, and I always don't, because I got good at figuring it out myself. But me figuring it out myself doesn't mean I didn't need things. It means I stopped asking because asking didn't work. Kelsey pushed back from the table and left the room. I heard her bedroom door close. My mom watched her go with that particular expression. She got around Kelsey, worried, soft, ready to follow. Let her be, my stepdad said, surprising me. My mom stayed seated. We handled this badly, he said. I know that. I don't want an apology tonight, I told him. I want you to think about what I said. And I want to know where the money went specifically because I couldn't read the full transfer record. He looked at my mom. My mom looked at the table. Her first and last month on the Willow Street apartment, she said, and her ceramics studio rental for 6 months, and some equipment she needed for. Okay, I said. Thank you for telling me. I picked up my fork and finished my pasta. They were too off balance to try to recenter the conversation. The dinner ended early and quietly. I washed my own dish, said goodnight, and went to the guest room. I lay in the dark for a long time, listening to the hum of the house. My phone had a missed call from my best friend Danny. We'd grown up 2 streets apart, both raised by mothers who had different rules for different children, which made us fluent in each other's particular exhaustion. I called her back. How's Sacramento? She said. Informative, I said, and told her everything. She was quiet for a moment when I finished. Then the ceramics studio. 6 months of rental. And she's not even doing ceramics anymore. No. She's pivoting to content creation, I think, or maybe life coaching. Danny made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. My parents did something similar. Different sibling, same math. My brother needed things because he needed them. I didn't need things because I managed, and no one ever noticed that I managed because I had to. That's it, I said. That's exactly it. So what do you do now? I looked at the ceiling. Through the window, I could see the neighbor's oak tree, the one that had been there since I was 9 years old and started calling this house home. I've already done the first part, I said. I said the thing out loud. I made them sit with it. And the second part, I stopped being the person they can take from without asking. I changed what I've been passive about. Like, I had made a mental list on the drive down. My stepdad is listed as an emergency contact on my benefits. He doesn't need to be. My mom is listed on an old bank account I haven't closed because I never got around to it. And I've been paying for a family streaming subscription that I set up 5 years ago because it was easier than explaining why I wanted to cancel it. Danny laughed for real this time. The streaming subscription. $12 a month for 4 years. Start there, she said. And Serena, the car. I know you said it was practical, and I know you've been looking at it forever. But it's okay if part of it was also about walking into that driveway and not apologizing for what you've built. You don't have to feel bad about that part. I hadn't told her about the party photo, about my aunt's text, about the pink and gold streamers in the banner. I told her now. She was quiet again. They threw her a party and didn't invite you. It was last minute. With custom banners. She said a word I won't repeat. Then, you drove the right car to that house. I didn't do it on purpose. I know. But sometimes the truth just shows up in an $87,000 vehicle and your family has to deal with it. I smiled in the dark for the first time in 3 days. The next morning, I was loading the Range Rover with my grandmother's furniture when Kelsey appeared in the garage doorway. She was holding 2 mugs of coffee. She offered me one without saying anything. We stood in the garage for a minute drinking coffee. I didn't know it was your account specifically, she said again. I want you to believe that. I believe you knew there was an account and you didn't ask questions, I said, which is a different thing. She absorbed that. Yeah. Do you know how much they've given you over the last 5 years? I asked. Not cruelly. I genuinely wanted to know if she'd ever added it up. She didn't answer for a long moment. I don't know the exact number. Neither do I said. But I think if we both looked, we'd find it significant. I don't have anything to pay you back with, she said quietly. I know that's probably the obvious next question. I don't have anything. I'm not asking you to pay me back, I said. I'm asking you to stop letting them do it. You're 23, Kelsey. You're not a child. Every time you ask them for something, they have to find it somewhere. I'm done being a somewhere. She looked at her coffee. That's fair, she said. I didn't know if she meant it, but she said it, and that was more than I'd expected. I drove back to Portland with the armoire strapped into a moving truck I'd rented, following my own car up I-5. My stepdad had helped me load it that morning without saying much. My mom had hugged me on the porch when I left and held on for a second longer than usual, which was its own kind of language. I canceled the family streaming subscription somewhere around Eugene. I'm not going to tell you things resolved quickly because they didn't. My mom texted me the week after with a long message about how they had always tried their best and how raising 2 daughters with different needs was complicated and how she hoped I could find it in my heart to understand the pressure they were under. I read it 3 times. I wrote a response that took me 45 minutes, which said that I understood pressure and that I had been under significant pressure for most of my adult life, and that understanding their choices didn't make the choices right. I sent it and put my phone in a drawer. My stepdad called me 6 weeks after the dinner. He doesn't call often, we text mostly, so I knew it meant something. I've been thinking about what you said, he started. About help not being equally available. Okay, I said. I think you're right, he said. And I think I've been telling myself a story where Kelsey needed more because she struggled more and you needed less because you managed, and I didn't look hard enough at why you'd learn to manage without us. I sat down. Something in my chest moved. We talked to Kelsey, he said. She's going to start working full-time. We're not going to keep covering her rent. It's overdue. Yeah, I said. It is. The 14,000, he said. We can't do it all at once, but I pulled from the boat fund. Your mom's idea, actually, and we can send you half now and the rest over 12 months. I hadn't asked them to pay it back. I had thought about it, drafted the language in my head, decided the number wasn't the point, and then decided maybe the point was the number after all, and then gone back and forth 3 more times. Hearing him offer it without being pushed felt like something closing correctly. Okay, I said. Thank you. I should have treated you the same, he said. I thought providing equally meant giving more to whoever needed more. But you needed things too. You just got tired of saying it. I exhaled. Yeah. We didn't fix everything on that call. I'm not ready to go back for Christmas. I told him that honestly, and he said he understood and that their door was open when I was ready. I said I appreciated that, and I meant it. After we hung up, I went down to the parking garage and sat in the Range Rover for a few minutes without turning it on, just sitting with it. This car that I had wanted for over a year and had finally let myself have. It doesn't feel like a statement anymore. It just feels like mine. Here's what I want you to take from this if you made it to the end. I'm not saying go buy an expensive car and park it in your parents' driveway. That's not the lesson. The lesson is this. If you are the capable one, the managing one, the one who figured it out without asking, please understand that your family has likely been mistaking your resilience for a resource. They see that you're fine and they read that as she doesn't need anything. And they stop looking. Not always out of malice. Sometimes just out of the quiet convenience of not having to look. You are allowed to make them look. You are allowed to say, this is what happened and it wasn't okay, and I'm not going to keep pretending it was so that everyone else stays comfortable. You are allowed to want things. You are allowed to have things. You are allowed to stop being the person your family can take from quietly in small amounts with good intentions and then reference later as proof that they raised someone strong. Strength isn't the same as surplus, and managing isn't the same as not needing. I'm still working through what my family looks like going forward. Some days I think will be okay, other days I'm not sure. But I know that I stopped being background noise the day I drove into that driveway and let them ask me where the money came from. The answer was always the same. I worked for it, and so did you. Whatever you've built, whatever you're carrying, you worked for it. Don't let anyone make you explain yourself for having it. So tell me, have you ever been the one in your family who was just fine while everyone else got the attention and the help and the room to fail? Tell me in the comments. I want to know where you're watching from and how far the story travels. I've been sitting with this story for a while now, turning it over the way you turn over a stone you've been stepping around for years, not sure if you want to see what's underneath, but too tired to keep pretending it's not there. What happened with my family wasn't a single moment. That's the thing nobody tells you about this kind of hurt. It doesn't arrive all at once like a storm you can point to. It accumulates. A party you weren't invited to. A text that came 6 hours late. An account closure letter folded at the bottom of a box with your name on it, each one small enough to explain away. All of them together, impossible to ignore. I used to think that being capable was a gift. I built that identity early. The one who figured things out. The one who didn't need to be rescued. And for a long time I was proud of it, but somewhere along the way my family stopped seeing it as a quality I had developed and started treating it as a fact of nature, like I was simply born requiring less. Like the years I spent working double shifts and declining vacations and eating the cheap version of everything were just my personality, not a response to a situation they had helped create. That's the part that took me the longest to understand. My resilience wasn't free. It cost something. And the bill didn't disappear just because I paid it quietly. When I put that closure letter on the dinner table, I wasn't trying to punish anyone. I was trying to make visible something that had been invisible for years. The arithmetic of how our family actually worked. Who got supported? Who got managed? Who got celebrated at a party with a custom banner? And who got a text 6 hours after the fact saying it was last minute? Cause and consequence don't always look dramatic. Sometimes the consequence of treating one child like a resource for 20 years is just that she stops being available. She cancels the streaming subscription. She removes your email from her insurance. She drives 4 hours in a car you didn't know she could afford, sits down at your table, and finally says the thing she's been not saying since she was 19. My stepdad called it a mistake. My mom called it pressure. I think it was neither and both. A series of small decisions made by people who told themselves a convenient story and never looked hard enough to check if it was true. The story was, Serena is fine. And because they believed it, they never had to ask whether fine was something I had chosen or something I had learned to perform, because the alternative was asking for help that wasn't coming. That's the thing about integrity. Not the word people use in speeches, but the actual lived version. It means that what you do when no one is watching, when the choice is small and no one will know, those choices compound. They become the structure of your relationships. My family made small choices for years. I made small choices for years. Eventually, the structure became visible in a driveway on a Sunday afternoon in Sacramento. I'm telling you this because if you are the capable one, the managing one, the one your family looks at and thinks she'll be fine, I want you to know that your stability is not a permission slip for other people to stop seeing you. You are allowed to be fine and still deserving of consideration. You are allowed to have built something and not apologize for it. You are allowed to put a letter on a table and say, this happened, and it mattered, and I am not going to quietly absorb it anymore. The work is not easy, but neither was everything that came before it.